business owner? Entrepreneur? Want to learn how online marketing can improve your business?
Your questions.
Our advice.
This is Not a Real Job.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Not a Real Job, the podcast that helps you take the things you love and turn them into things that make you money. I am Chris Van Patten, and I am coming to you live-ish, not really, but you know what I mean, in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, North America.
You fucked up already.
How did I
You
do
didn't
that?
say it was episode 67.
Is it episode 67?
It's episode 67.
Oh, my goodness.
18.
Sure. Is that a Canadian thing?
No, it's definitely not 67. Nuff is 9.
Well, who are you? Let's get that going.
I'm Joel Christopher Kelly.
That's my name.
That is your name. I actually changed my middle name just so we'd be best friends forever. And I'm also in Toronto. And we have a special guest this week. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Sarah Adlam from Toronto.
Toronto?
As recently, yeah.
As of now?
A year and over a half.
Now, do you get to call yourself a Torontian?
Well, that's the thing. I don't...
A Torontian.
Rob Fordish.
Fordian.
Fordian. I'm a Fordian?
You made a Fordian slip, I think they call it. That's when you do. That's when you do crack in your fat.
Yeah, well, you know.
It's a Fordian slip.
You only live once.
So recently,
YOLO.
we got a...
Drake invented YOLO, and he's Canadian.
Is he really?
Yeah, he played Wheels on Degrassi.
And he's part of
I knew
Weed,
that.
and he's a full supporter of Weed the North.
Weed the North.
Yeah, I think it's We the North.
Oh,
Is that
the North.
We the North. Nintendo
Yeah.
Wii the North, the Raptors edition.
Sure.
Do you know he's like the official, he's paid representative for the Toronto Raptors?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
They're a basketball team.
Yeah.
I'll be entirely honest. I'm not entirely sure who Drake is.
Oh.
He's a rapper.
Oh, awkward.
Okay. We got a...
He makes urban music.
Ooh,
What are we drinking?
We're drinking Alamos Cabernet Sauvignon
It's
from
an
Mendoza,
yeah.
Argentina.
It's an Argentinian wine.
But it comes from the LCBO, is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
It's pronounced
right
like
up the street.
Because here in Canada, everything is socialism. You have to buy your wine from a store owned by the state.
And you actually have to present your papers. They go, papers, please, as soon as you walk in.
There's a ration. There is a
ration. You have to. It's all paid in coupons.
It's basically Act 2 of Reds.
Yeah, it's and red green is there.
Of course. Living large at the Possum Lodge.
Yeah.
We got a tweet recently from somebody who said that they loved the show, but they wanted to know if there was a version of our show with more women on it. Which is interesting because
didn't happen.
No, this is honestly.
Did it seriously happen?
This is a true thing.
Good. Okay. Who tweeted that?
I don't remember.
Thank you. I agree.
Yes. So we're going to try to solve that in our small way. We've had 4 guests on the show so far, and 3 of them women, right? Lindsay.
We've had 2 male guests so far. We had Steve and Benjamin.
Who's Benjamin?
Benjamin R. Harrison.
Oh,
he made a space elevator to the moon.
I don't think he made the. I was thinking of your friend Benjamin. You've got multiple friends named Benjamin.
Yeah, too many, if you ask me.
Sure. Okay. Yes. So we're 5 then. 3 for 5. So that's pretty good. You want to explain what just happened?
Sarah, our guest, who happens to be a woman, spelled with a Y, she put her empty wine glass on the computer and it quickly slid down the keyboard and towards the screen in a very frightening manner.
Because they've made everything like so aerodynamic that honestly,
the
like
men have made
the men,
the patriarchy.
That honestly, the glass just like glazed over the keyboard, which is I'm going to say was a product of science.
Lest we wait too long and she introduce herself. Sarah, who are you and why are you on the podcast?
I am Sarah Adlam, and
I got your name already, but
I live and work in Toronto, and I am Toronto, and I was part of the.
Why are you notable? I guess.
So,
are you notable? I mean, we should ask that
She's
question.
the most notable.
Awkward.
Okay.
So,
well, I just want it for our listeners' benefit. Of course.
I was one of the people behind the BMW M4 campaign, where the BMW was on the aircraft carrier.
Yeah. Now hold on. If you saw a sick TV ad about a BMW on an aircraft carrier, you have Sarah to thank for that.
Now, not to be that guy, but
you're being that guy.
BMW Canada. So,
but it was worldwide. It blew up all over.
Okay, that's fair. I don't really follow the trends, the popular zeitgeist.
Yeah, Rush Limbaugh, Alex Jones, Wolf Blitzer. They all loved
the best people.
All of the Americans.
And it's not like I hit refresh every day and say that we're
how many millions?
6 million almost. Like I'm not going to go there, but.
That's like 2% of America's population.
It's a Sunday and it's like 6:33 and maybe we went there. And so maybe it's almost at 6 mil.
6 mil.
I went there.
Not bad.
So I love cars, and I think that doing extreme stuff with cars is kind of a really fun thing on the side. So yeah.
All right. I feel like this podcast is slipping out from under us. So
well, that's never happened before.
Let's try to nail down. We've got Sarah on the podcast. We're extremely lucky to have her. We've never met her before.
This is brand new.
We basically, what we did is we reached out. We said, we're both going to be in Toronto. Let's find the greatest advertising personality in Toronto. And luckily, Sarah volunteered. She's a big fan of the podcast.
I am.
The P-cast.
So basically, and you work at an agency that is known now as being the top automotive creative agency, I believe, in the world.
Yes.
Is this true?
Yes.
And that's true.
I don't know where the joke's at.
That's absolutely true. And also, she both listens to the podcast religiously. And would you say that you've learned everything you know from it?
Oh, I would say, yeah. But, I have no idea who either of these people are. So
it's a mystery.
I mean, we haven't been friends for years.
I don't even know who this guy is.
Okay, so we have a legitimate successful creative person on the podcast. What can you tell us? What is it like? You've worked on small budget stuff because you are from Halifax. Well, you're not from Halifax, but you did work in Halifax for some time.
Yeah.
You've done work in a smaller city with a smaller agency with smaller clients. What is it like transferring from kind of more local work to doing work for big clients?
So I worked in Halifax from Nova Scotia Tourism to Atlantic Lottery. And then I went from there and I worked in Toronto, and I went to doing work on Petro-Canada. And essentially I left a job doing work on Petro-Canada to setting my career on fire in a really good way. And I worked on BMW. And so it was essentially an opportunity that was opened up to the entire creative department. And I was new to the company. And what I did was there was a guy who was on vacation, and he had no idea he was being partnered with me. And I grabbed a hold of that, and I emailed him every night, every day, until I was essentially his best friend. He had no idea. And we got together and we just worked our balls off. And
now, how many balls did you have before you worked them off?
I had a couple of balls in my pants that I threw at people, but he had some, and he...
not anymore.
No, they worked them off.
So he was a great guy that I was working with, and he knew the company, he knew the client. I didn't know the client. This was a new project. I had never worked for a car company before, actually, which is completely new to me. And so I figured that what better way to start your career than going at it as fast as you can and as hard as you can. And
which
so
inspired the commercial, I would say.
So essentially, you look at a creative idea and you think, there are no limits. I will do this and I will change your life. And essentially, that's what I try to do for every single client, is that I do it in a way that they've never seen before. And so the partner that I work with on this, Mike Dietrich, he's amazing.
I know somebody with that name.
He's
probably not the same.
Probably not the same guy. Who knows?
Probably not.
Safe to say.
like we pushed a bunch of ideas forward, and some of them were like really crazy, and some of them were like in the middle. But in the end, this is what the BMW client bought off on. And
Now, would you say this is one of the crazier ideas or more middle ground ideas?
This was one of the safer.
So we'll put the ad in the show notes, but just to briefly give you some context, listener, there is a BMW M4, I believe. It's like lime green, if I remember correctly. It's a very nice looking car.
Actually, there's a specific car color for
oh, of course.
every single BMW has they're named,
what is this one?
They're named after a specific racetrack.
Oh,
And
that's
so
kind of cool.
Interesting.
I don't want to say, I think this one was the Kentucky Derby. It's like a
We'll
yellow.
edit this out if you're wrong.
It's a mustard.
It is a yellowish.
Yeah, it's a mustard
I'm
color,
colorblind.
but it's based off of a track. It's not a made up color. It's
Cool.
definitely
Yeah,
based off of something.
it's a beautiful color. Yeah. So it is this incredibly beautiful car racing on a stunt course that happens to be on, and this is the crazy part, an aircraft carrier.
So
That's a crazy idea.
So when we pitched the idea, I had been looking at we had been looking at a bunch of different types of vessels, and so was it an aircraft carrier? Was it like a cargo ship? Was it what was it? What is the largest vessel that you can think of that is the most extreme vessel? And so
Millennium Falcon.
I kept coming up with, I kept proposing to the group of people, my creative director, my partner on this project, no, it has to be this extreme vessel. And so I spent a lot of time doing a lot of nautical research, and I have a friend who's actually a naval ship person, where essentially he is able to tell me that this is the vessel, this is the type of aircraft carrier that is in station right now that we can superimpose or suggest that something is part of it. So you can create a story around this vessel. And so that's where it lies. Is it real? Is it fake? You don't know. This vessel is part of a fleet that actually exists. And so with the research that we've conducted and the amount of space and, using basic math, we're able to create a course on this incredible platform where you can create a space that juxtaposes like an amazing aircraft carrier with a racetrack and a car.
So that's a huge idea. And like you're saying, it took tons of research. It took tons of work and effort to even conceive of it. How do you get a client to be okay with an idea that big?
Well, essentially, you romance them into believing in it. And so whatever
it's
that
all a
is.
trick.
It's all sales, you might say.
And I'm going
It's
to
advertising.
It's not, though. It's essentially creative persuasion. And in any job, especially within advertising, it's being able to creatively persuade people into believing that this can be you. This can be you. You can be part of something that is completely unimaginable, and have them believe and follow along with it so that they're like part of an idea that they never thought could exist.
So how does that translate to the smaller scale? So I don't think any of our listeners, or maybe they are, if you are, please tell us, you're not a big brand. We don't have the head of BMW listening to the show that I'm aware of. I mean, we can assume and
They
hope
should
for the
be.
best.
Mm-hmm.
But most of our listeners are sort of just starting out, or they're starting their own business. How do you get that kind of big sky thinking, I guess, into a small business that maybe doesn't have the same resources to rent out an aircraft carrier as BMW might?
So the enthusiasm lies within the idea. So you can get production houses to believe in your idea, and you can recreate something that can essentially turn into something award-winning and great. And so we didn't spend, essentially our objective for this project was to increase the viewership and I think, spend lesser money than from probably previous before. And I'm new to the project, so I had no idea. I'm completely ignorant to any of that. But convincing people and clients and production houses and everybody part of it, you can, if it's a good idea, you can go there. It's worth it. You just have to believe in the idea. You just have to see it, that it's going to be something that will transform your business and transform that goal into something that's truly amazing. And whether it's a situation where it's like a musical about a silly tortilla to being something where it's, again, a car on an aircraft carrier that you can't even imagine. But
well, this is okay. So this is the question. Then you're introducing, I guess, what I think is the crux of the whole question is how do you, and without, I mean, obviously the answer is hire someone like you or you yourself. But how do you, as an advertiser, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, an artist, just trying to get awareness or interest in your business? How do you come up with ideas that are this interesting, that get people excited? Like, do you have any tips for someone out there who is struggling, who has a business they believe in, they think is interesting? How do they come up with something that gets other people on board and interested?
And I have to say, I think that it's funny because coming from Nova Scotia and coming from that place in Canada and being kind of restricted in terms of budget, being with BMW was essentially the most amazing position I've ever been in. They had a lot of money, and it was like...
But you've done great ideas for people who weren't BMW.
I think, though, that you have to pretend the money isn't there. Mm-hmm. It's like shopping. You have to go around and you have to look at what the outfits are before you look at the price. Mm-hmm. If the outfit is beautiful and whatever they're offering is beautiful and the design is beautiful, look at the price secondary, because there is value within that.
Or you can go from there and maybe create something and with the same feel. It may not be the exact same dress. It may not be the exact same aircraft carrier. But when you approach ideas from that side, looking at the idea first, that helps you figure out what is the essential part.
Yeah, how did the aircraft carrier
without?
Commercial make me feel?
Right.
It wasn't about the car and the aircraft carrier, but it's the emotion you walk away from. And that can be done not potentially to that extent.
Right. And that was created by like a different bunch of places. We hired the embassy, which is in Vancouver, and they've worked on District 9. These people are amazing.
Great movie, by the way.
And
that should be our gear pick.
They have been phenomenal to work with. And we used Ozon, who's our director, and he was, again, new and upcoming, and he's amazing. But what had he worked on before? Personally, I'm new to this industry in that place. But the fact that I was completely new to it and completely ignorant helped me in the fact that we created something great that nobody ever suspected.
You don't see the limits when you're at that point.
Yeah.
We were the underdog of this entire situation. And I am so happy to be the underdog of something.
Well, that's huge. Like, because we've talked about on the show before, people like Ryan Holiday and like people who talk all the time about, I mean, it's beginner's mind. It's like Buddhist
Yeah.
beginner's mind style stuff of approaching everything as if you're new to it. Like the beginner's luck is a real thing. You do perform irresponsibly and irrationally better as a beginner than you should, because you're not constrained by what you know the rules are. And I think like that's why the concept of the beginner's mind, if we'll include this in the show notes, is that idea of approaching everything as if you're new to it will make you
Because
better.
at that point, you're not aware of what the limitations are.
You're not aware of anyone else who's failed trying to do what you've done.
And I think maybe that's the trick for a small business owner approaching this problem is it's so easy to get focused on, like, as the owner of the business, watching over your finances and that kind of thing. Like, don't think about that kind of thing. Sort of get to a place where you can put that to the side and focus on the ideas, not how you're going to execute the ideas.
And that's the irony about this situation. Like, I am not in my 20s. I'm like in my 30s. And so essentially, like,
You're old as shit.
nobody nobody ever expected the ideas to come from me. But the fact that we were essentially in a place where we were the underdogs. I worked with another guy Mike Dietrich, who is in his 40s, and
Definitely not the same Mike Dietrich.
and I loved working with him only because we both had the same enthusiasm for the job. It wasn't that the age had no matter on the entire subject, but the fact that both of us were so excited about the project and were willing to work until like 2 a.m. and share creative ideas with our creative director and say, what do you think of this? What do you think? Like right to the end of the hour. You know, he was taking in ideas like till the close, and I was writing him at 11:50 at night with a whole sheet of ideas just because I wanted to get in there. And, you know, I have one of the best creative directors I've ever worked with. And Andrew Simon is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, hands down. He is just amazing. He accepts some of the most ludicrous and obscure ways of thinking, but in a way that you can appreciate. And I think in our industry, thinking outside the box in a way that scares you can be one of the most fundamental ways in changing your business and changing how people see how things work. Because look at Apple. Look at how they change the way people think. That's amazing.
So one of the things, as you've heard, we're kind of rebranding the show to be more about turning the things that you love, the things you're passionate about, into things you can make money from. You're an incredible artist. You're a great illustrator. One of the best pieces that me and Leah have in our apartment is a painting that you did and you were going to throw away. We love. It's the most prominent piece of art in our apartment.
Other than Fry.
I
I don't even know what that is.
What do you have any advice for people who have hobbies, whether they're artistic or otherwise, who want to turn their passions to things they can make money from? You as an artist, you've made money being a creative person at an agency. Do you have any tips for people who want to turn their passions to the things they can make money from?
So the irony about this is that I have learning disability. And I was always told that I would never graduate from high school, let alone have an actual university degree, which is amazing because basically you take that bar and you like drop it to the bottom of the floor. And so every day, if I kicked that bar a little higher, well, holy shit, that was amazing. It was amazing. And every day I would kick that bar. And so knowing that I could paint or I could draw maybe a little bit better than somebody in my class helped me kick that bar a little higher. And it got me through to high school. And I kept kicking. And then I started taking university courses through high school. And it wasn't until I realized that you can actually do something with that bar that you kicked, and you became valuable and somebody that society believed in, that I determined that maybe, just maybe, I can find something that you all will appreciate. And so here I am. I work in advertising. I do creative work where people appreciate it beyond, outside of my realm. I did the Canadian Olympics for last year, all of the ice creative that was done in every Petro-Canada station, cups and everything. And, everybody had a little piece of me inside their house. And that made me feel better, knowing that I was told I would never graduate from high school. I would never achieve anything. But knowing in the end, I beat that odd. And I changed everything. So keep doing what you're doing and know that in the end, you can beat those odds, and it has nothing to do with what people say about you.
Well, I think that's where we should end.
That's probably as good a place as
That's probably as good a podcast as we're going to make.
Yeah. Cool. So let's see.
Thank you, Sarah, so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Sharing some
incredible,
essential
shit.
I would say. Yeah.
That's a little intense. I overshared.
No, it's good. It's good.
That was incredible.
I think that I don't want to go off on a long tangent because we are hitting the almost the 30-minute mark, but I think that business owners and people in business, or starting your own operation, whatever that might look like, we don't talk about that kind of thing, our feelings and emotions. Yeah. And it's a real thing that everyone goes through. And I think if we can be a platform to be honest and open about
we've
these
done
things.
some sort of disservice, I think, in that we've had very few episodes about our own. The episodes about our burnout and kind of depression. There's been a few, but yeah, I think it's right. We often take a little Pollyanna kind of approach to things where it's just a little too
clean, maybe
too clean. Yeah, we all tell our we always we do sanitize our life stories. And I think it's super useful to have someone as successful as you, Sarah, and to talk about what makes all this stuff difficult and challenging and therefore rewarding.
Yeah, and that's the irony. I was told I would never graduate from high school. I was told that I would be whatever I am. And I have a university degree, and I have proved all of those people wrong.
Yeah, and you're like one of the top art directors in the frickin' country. Like that's amazing stuff. And you as a business owner or a hobbyist or whatever you're out there, I mean, there's so many struggles you're going to hit, but I mean, I think the answer to everything is having passion and willing to put the time in and the sacrifice and just every day trying to love what you do a little bit more.
Passion is the key. Definitely passion. Love every day and be aware that people around you are wrong.
Yeah. And
admit that they are wrong.
But it's that Steve Jobs video, like the
commencement speech?
No, it was the little bit. It's just a quick interview. It's like 5 minutes with him where he talks about how he realized he could change the world. It's like when he was at Next Computers, and he talks about the realization you have where the whole world is manufactured by people just like you, just as smart as you, or potentially not as smart as you. And every rule in the world was manufactured and created and enforced by someone just like you. And as soon as you realize that, it makes you realize, wait, that means I can change the world.
When you can change things and you have the realization.
The people who told you weren't going to graduate from high school were dumber than you. Like that's a pretty freaking important realization.
As soon as they told me that, I became acutely aware of the issue.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and I have everything to my parents, where I was like, my parents are amazing people in my life, and they were able to like tell me that they're wrong.
Yeah.
But had I had people around me that said they're not wrong, no.
Yeah.
But my parents have been huge supporters of that. And so I am very, very lucky. Very, very lucky. But I've done a lot of symposiums for people with disabilities and learning disabilities. And honestly, the education system is not geared towards people with disabilities. It's just not. Mm-hmm. And it's structured towards people who can learn in a very specific way.
That's like not learn better, but learn in one particular way.
No, I didn't learn how to do something until I was in my late 20s. Because I didn't understand it till my late 20s. And I pretended until my late 20s how to know it. And it was funny because I was like, oh, that's what everybody was talking about. But
was this spelling?
It was many other things. But the irony of that entire situation was that I was more than happy to accept the fact that I didn't know it. Versus the people who accepted the fact that.
Which I think is also essential. The willingness to admit that you might not have the right answer.
And people were more willing to jump on the fact that I didn't know it versus that I did. And so, like, what's the rule? If me and 25, 30 other people didn't understand what you were talking about, maybe you're doing it wrong. I'm just going to say, So I'm going to lay that out there.
Yeah, let's have a separate episode about the school system.
I think that's a different episode, but I'm really happy to get on here and talk about it because, I think that our commercial did really well and we won a LEA recently. And
what are the LEAs?
So the LEA is a London International Award for advertising. And so we won 2 awards, 2 bronze. I won Art Direction and another company who did our work, the embassy, entered me in incorrectly as a copywriter. And I will graciously accept copywriter because in my office currently, me as a copywriter is probably the worst possible
because all you do is puns and you can't spell for shit.
All I do is puns and spell for shit. But I love it. And so everybody hates me right now because I've actually tagged that on as my professional.
Your whole LinkedIn now is just Sarah Adlam, copywriter.
So people hate me because of that. But it's we're up for some more awards. So I will keep you guys posted. But back to Joel and Chris.
I'll throw it back to us. Thank you, Sarah. It was amazing to have you on the show. We should wrap up, though, and get into some gear stuff.
Yeah, what's your gear recommendation?
Well, let's do District 9.
Okay, there we go.
It's a great movie. Takes place in South Africa, and people...
Which is unusual. Movies don't often take place there. Joel has a blank expression on his face.
Well, I don't... I'm
just commenting. I'm offering some color.
Oh, I didn't know if I somehow fucked up the way I talked about that. Did I make a wrong expression?
You're doing good. You're doing good. Okay. Keep it up.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a great movie. People think it's a metaphor for apartheid, but it's not. It's a metaphor for immigration into South Africa from the other countries within Africa, and it's super depressing. But also, it's a beautiful film. Directed by Neil Blomkamp, who did also Elysium and some other movies. A new one with Hugh Jackman and also Ninja and Yolandi from Antwoord are
What's
in
that?
his new film. I forget the name of it. Champy, something like that.
No, D Antwoord. What's
D
that?
Antwoord, they're an incredible hip hop band from South Africa.
Interesting. Okay. Good
Anyway,
to know.
so I'm going to say District 9. Get it on Blu-ray today.
There we go. We'll put
Hours
the
of
link.
bonus features, I assume. I haven't checked it out yet.
One hopes. So I'm going to put in Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind,
Nice.
which since we mentioned that, and that is DT Suzuki. Suzuki? I don't know.
David Suzuki.
David. Good old Dave.
Oh,
He's a Canadian celebrity. Probably not
Sure.
the same guy, though.
Probably not the same guy. It's a great book. It's basically an introduction to Zen thinking and also the stuff that we talked about beginner's mind and the theory of approaching something as a beginner where you don't have preconceptions and that kind of thing. I'm a nerd for Buddhist literature, and this book especially is super worth reading. Gets a little religious at points, but that's okay. We'll allow it.
Is
you
it?
know,
Will
the
be.
philosophy is good. So definitely take a look at that. And we'll put the link, as always, in the show notes and at notarealjob.com/gear, where you can find all of our past recommendations as well. And remember, if you are interested in one of these products, please buy through the link that we provide, because it gives us like a 0.0001% cut, which is more than we make on this show any other way. And it definitely helps us out. So definitely check that
Yeah,
out.
if each of you buys 700 to 800 items,
700 to 800 copies of
District 9.
District 9.
we might break even per episode.
Maybe. It's still up in the air. The conversion rate for you Canadian listeners might be a little weird,
Yeah, it's
but
about the same. All right, so housekeeping. Notarealjob.com, twitter.com/marriagecast, twitter.com/Joel Kelly, twitter.com/Chris Van Patten. Sarah, is there anything you want to plug? Any websites you want to?
special update.
Twitter.com/special update.
Yep.
It's a good name.
It is a great name. SarahAdlam.ca. Do we want to plug that one?
Sure.
We can take that out if you don't want to.
You can plug it.
Okay.
We'll put the link in the show notes to all of the stuff that we've mentioned, all the links, all the products, everything good.
Facebook.com/notarealjob.
YouTube.com/notarealjob. We are everywhere. Please find us, tell your friends, give us a rating on iTunes, and we will talk to you next week.
All right. Love you all.
Bye.